morning, afternoon. I believe it's afternoon for most of you guys, even late evening. I'm Ian Campbell with Alpha Capital. I'm one of the 401k advisors on the plan, and my counterpart, Mark L., is also an advisor that's available to each one of you as well. Today's call and discussion is going to be really to go over the online enrollment piece or enrollment of the 401k plan and the benefit of that, and the steps to do so. We're available to each one of you after this into the future, so don't hesitate to reach out to either myself or Mark with any questions that you have. We're going to be going through a series of documents. Kathy can follow up with you in regards to these attachments that we'll be looking at with either digital copies or printed copies. The bulk of it can be done all electronically, so there's nothing that you necessarily need to print out or have with you. You can complete everything either via phone or computer at your fingertips just after this meeting too. So the first one we're going to look at is the online enrollment book. It starts really on the second page. The first page is the cover page, and you would go to the second page and it'll say, let's get started. And the first step is to go to the provider's website. Retirement Plan Consultant is the provider, so that website link will be used for all future logins. For those who are just getting enrolled, you will need to select online enrollment in that top left corner of the gray box once you get to that landing page, and then it'll prompt you to type in a plan password.
Did you want me to go there?
Yeah, you don't need to go to the link, but if you just pull up the second page, that would be ideal.
Okay, well, we're on the second page, which says let's get started. Yeah, and I just went.
And then, go ahead.
Okay, yeah.
And then the second step is, once you click online enrollment, is just to type in that plan password. The most important thing that you'll listen today is just go to this website, type in a plan password, Fundo INC, and click next and follow those guided steps. It's very straightforward from there on out. If you wouldn't mind, I'm going to have you go down to page 8 of 14.
Go to page 8.
And that will actually, 8 of 14. And that will have that kind of gray box that I mentioned previously. Once you go to that website, you'll see the gray box in the middle for that username and password. The top left corner, you'll see online enrollment. And the next pages are going to have a step-by-step screenshot of each of those steps. So feel free to reference this document. This is probably the most important document, the 14 pages, because it has that step-by-step guide and then also that second page with all the details on that as well. If you need any other assistance on this too, there's a YouTube video link that we had sent to the team with a step-by-step process in a video. So if you need some more assistance, feel free to reference that YouTube link as well.
Where was that?
It was in the body of the email that was sent right below the first sentence.
Okay.
They can listen to that and view that later on. It's probably overkill, honestly. If you were to do it by yourself blind, not even with a step-by-step guide, 90% of you guys would figure that out. Some folks would reference this step-by-step guide potentially, if not that short video.
Okay.
So if you don't mind, I'm going to have you pull up the enrollment book attachment, which says the PDF enrollment book. It is a 55-page document where we're going to just be looking at pages 2 and 3.
Alrighty.
And let me know whenever you get to page 2 of the enrollment book. It'll say enrollment application in the top left corner.
I got it.
Perfect. So for the purposes of the meeting and the call, we like to reference the types of information that you're going to be putting in electronically online. If you do need to do a paper form, that is available. We'd recommend to do the online though. All of the information is pretty self-explanatory. The one that's pretty unique to each of you is going to be the date of hire. So make sure you are putting in the correct information there. That's important for the eligibility.
Now, they were all hired on the same day. So their hire date is the date that we bought the company.
Perfect. So that would be very easy for everybody then. So
the date
just confirm and relay that.
Yeah.
Not the date of our initial hiring with another company, just this one, right?
Correct.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's when the ownership would change. Mm-hmm. Okay, very good question. So the next piece, I'm going to have you scroll down a little bit towards the bottom of that second page, which says enrollment election, and there's 3 options there. For those who do not want to participate in the plan, this form, the paper version, will actually serve as a waiver that you will fill out that top section and select that third option where it says, I elect not to contribute in the retirement plan at this time. And again, you'll present that back to the team there as a notice that you don't want to participate, and it essentially covers them saying that they presented the benefit to you, you said no at that time. It is not a no forever, so you can enroll at a later date if you say no now. It's quarterly, so it's the beginning of the quarters. So January 1, April 1, July 1, October 1 of every year. So if you say no now, the next window essentially would be October 1 or January 1, depending on how long you wanted to wait, and then following quarters thereafter. The enrollment election, for those who do want to participate, which hopefully is everybody, the pre-tax contribution is one option, or the after-tax Roth contribution is the other option. The difference between the two is when the money is taxed. It's either taxed today or it's taxed when you pull the money out in retirement. The difference is what's your tax bracket going to be in the future. That is somewhat of an unknown. Normally speaking, when you're in retirement, you're no longer working, so your income's lower. To argue the point that the pre-tax deduction is probably the most common because people think that they'll be working or they won't be working in retirement and their income's going to be lower, effectively in a lower tax bracket than what they are now working. Most people will do a pre-tax because they take that tax advantage deduction today and they reduce their income today from a benefit. Now, folks will also do the Roth or after-tax contribution. We normally see people that are in a lower tax bracket do that, or also younger individuals starting their earlier working career with the sentiment that they're going to be paying taxes later in life and they don't know what tax rates are going to be. They presume that they are going to be higher in the future, even though when they're working in, or they're not working in retirement, it's still going to be high. So there's not a perfect answer for each of you. From a scenario basis, it would need to be looked at a little bit more deeper into your overall financial picture. But for the most part, pre-tax is the most common. Younger folks or people that are in a lower income bracket would do Roth as well. You can adjust that. It's not set in stone, so you could do it for a year, 6 months, whatever, and then adjust it or change from pre-tax to Roth if you would like, or vice versa. Are there any questions at all about the traditional pre-tax or after-tax Roth contributions, or does that make sense to everybody?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
No. Erica? No.
So
okay.
hopping over to the third decision is going to be the how much piece of it. We've talked about yes or no, am I going to participate, pre-tax and Roth. The third is how much. And the reason why there's two numbers there, the 8 and 10% number, is 8 is the national average of what people are saving for themselves into their 401k account. All industries, all age groups, that average is 8%. The 10% number is what we would recommend you be at or get to from a goal standpoint, from a replacement of lifestyle or replacement of income in retirement. So a lot of studies and research has shown is that if you consistently save 10% of your income in a retirement account, you would then achieve the replacement type lifestyle in retirement, or have saved enough to maintain that similar lifestyle through retirement that you were doing previously. Use that as a general rule of thumb. Some lifestyles would probably promote, or some retirement lifestyles would probably promote 15% savings rate. So be mindful that not everybody's going to be in the exact same boat, but 10 or greater would be a recommended number to get to. We understand that that may not be in the cards for some of you or many of you, and that's why you have full discretion or full choice of what you would want to save for yourself as well, or a blank option. You can go online and there'll be a drop down, you'll be able to type in the exact amount. But we would encourage you, if you're thinking about considering to start out at a lower percentage, say 4, 5, 6%, that you bump up your contribution by 1% each year to limp into a bigger number or a higher contribution rate. So an example, start out at 5, next year after 1 year rolls off, go to 6, go to 7 the following year, 8, and so on, until you get up to 8, 9, or 10%, or even beyond that. So that's an easy way to limp into a bigger number without seeing a big effect to your net take-home pay from year to year. So does that make sense for everybody?
Yes.
All right. And you can change your contribution. Normally quarterly is the rule of thumb. So if you needed to change it from, say, 8 to 6 or from 6 to 8 or whatever, you can change that quarterly. We normally see people do it once or twice a year, if that. You can always, at any time, go to 0 if you need to, though. So if you need to contribute right now to start saving, you hit hard times, and you need to drop your contribution and use that income, then you can always go down to 0. Just be mindful of that. And it's not set in stone, so you can adjust it really at any time. Same with the pre-tax and Roth, and really, for that matter, the investments. I wanted to talk a little bit about the investments here and then hop over to another form, but if you wouldn't mind, scroll down to the top of the 3rd page where you'll see a bunch of investment choices in 2 columns there with a little kind of percentage blanks to the left of them. And those investment choices are all available to you to pick and choose from. You'll pick whichever you feel is most appropriate for you. We'll talk about some investment education and advice here in just a second. All these investments are institutional grade mutual funds. What that means is they're low cost, or the lowest cost available to investors. And then they're all top quartile performers, so really good performing funds. Part of Mark and I's role to the plan is to watch and monitor these investments to make sure they're the best that we can possibly have in the plan for you. If there's a fund that doesn't do well for consecutive quarters, we'll pull that fund out and replace it with a like kind fund. And that mapping and the money that you had invested in the old one will just automatically get moved over to the new one. There's nothing administratively that you or the business will have to do. But telling you you've got good funds, low cost, doesn't help with the investment selection. So if you don't mind, I was going to have you pull up that other 3rd attachment that says investment allocation, April 2019. And that document looks like a big Excel spreadsheet.
Yeah, we have it up.
Perfect. So that piece of document is broken out into 2 sections. The top larger rectangle is going to be for those who want to be hands-on with the investment selection. The bottom left would be hands-off. For those who want to be hands-on, we've broken out 5 different risk models from conservative all the way to aggressive, with what we feel would be most appropriate and diversified based off of that risk. For folks that are in their 20s and 30s, that aggressive column would be ideal. Folks in their 40s and 50s, that moderate aggressive column to the right would be good. And then in your 60s and in retirement, that moderate column, 50-50, would be ideal. So the ask is, if you're going to follow this guide, you can transpose those numbers. So like 6% here, 4% there, 17, 10 on that sheet or online, and match it up with the investment choice. The ask is that you pay attention to the update, because we're going to update this quarterly. We'll send out that communication along with a newsletter and so on. And you can update your numbers as much or as little as you would like. We just want to make sure you're in front of what we feel would be the best category or the best investment for that period of time. So it takes a little bit of administrative work on your end to make sure you're changing and in the right percentages for the right funds. All of these investments are good. You can see that some of them don't have a weighting in them. And that's because we don't feel that area right now will produce the high returns that we want, or the good returns, or protect from the down moves as well. So pay attention to the guide if you're going to go and follow it quarterly. We normally change those investment percentages once or twice a year. We haven't had a year that we've changed it 3 or 4 times. So I would say probably 2 would be the common time that you would go in and make your investment changes twice a year. For those who want to be hands-off, the target date funds are very popular. About 80% of participants actually save their investments into a target date fund because of that set it and forget it type mentality. And the way they work is you'd find out what year it will be when you reach age 65. And it's going to plop you into one of those target date ranges, which is in that middle column where it says target date 2021, 2025. So if you're in between that range, that's going to be your most appropriate fund, or the ideal target choice for you. And you would select 100%, and that would be your sole choice for all of your money to go into. And that fund is all diversified. As a comparison, each one of those funds is very similar to one of those columns. So it's either a one-stop shop or to be active and pick your investments essentially. The way these funds work is on a glide path. So the younger you are, the bigger year you'll have because you're going to retire later. And they decrease their risk every 5 years. That's why those increments. So they start out at aggressive at around 90 to 80% in equities and stocks, and they decrease every 5 years, ultimately reaching around a 50-50 for the given year or the present year. So it's good for somebody that's in their 20s, their 30s, 50s, and 60s, and even beyond that. Again, as a reminder, you can adjust your investments every single day if you wish to. There's no trading costs. There's no penalties to go in and out of any of these investment choices or change your investments at any time. You could do it essentially every day. We just wanted to help provide you a little bit more direction around those who want to be hands-on or those who want to be hands-off. And the third is you're free to really do whatever else you would like. You're free to pick whatever percentages in each of the columns that you wish to as well. Our contact information is on the bottom of that form, along in other documents and email signatures. So feel free to reach out to us, jot that information down, and let us know if you have any questions. So I wanted to open it up to see if there's any questions at all on the investment piece or any of the material that we've talked about so far.
No, everyone here is shaking their head no. I think you did a nice job to explain it. Mm-hmm. And if we do have a WebEx, that would be great. And then you said you have that step-by-step video that they can look at as well. I guess my question is, what date do we have to have these in to have it come out now?
Yeah, it's going to be up to you guys internally to figure out kind of setting a schedule on, say, hey, please have this completed by, so you're, in for the next pay period. Ideally from like a 1/1 start or a July 1 start, it's going to be the first pay period or first pay date in July or after July 1st. So whatever the first pay date after July 1st, if it's, I'm not looking at a calendar right this second, I can actually pull it up real quick. You've got the 7th is a Friday, and then, actually no, it's June. So the 5th is a Friday, and then the 12th. So depending on if you guys are paid on Fridays, it may be the 5th, maybe the 12th. You may have a week, you may have half of a week to get this in. But missing the first pay period is not the end of the world. If folks are going to be enrolling and they need a little bit more time because of the holidays, we just encourage people to get it completed, as soon as possible. The online piece will probably only take you 5 to 10 minutes maximum, and it's instant. So as soon as you complete the online enrollment, you've got a username and password, and that triggers, okay, perfect, we're going to save 5%, and that will actually stay in the system. It'll notify the HR team of what your election is, and they'll get that taken out of payroll on the upcoming payroll.
It really depends on when you complete the form. It could start differently for each person. It doesn't have to all start at the same time. Okay.
Yep. And if ideally you want to catch as much people as you can on the first run or that first payroll push, just so you're not having to add people, in the subsequent payroll periods.
But regardless of when we turn it in, the deadline would be July 1st?
No.
After that, we can't do it till
No,
October,
you can.
Or?
So there really is no deadline. I mean, the quicker they get it in, the earlier they start saving. Right.
Correct.
So,
yep. And that's, recommended. I think kind of elaborating to the other gals mentioned is just like, how long can you wait? Can you go and enroll in August and start in August? Ideally, the month of July is kind of the window to enroll for July. If you wait past that, then you have to wait until October 1 to start. So, kind of use that month of July as a window. But if you're late in the pay period in July, you may not have any payroll withholdings in July. It may kick in, early August. But if you're going to participate, get it taken care of, get enrolled. If you're on the fence or wanting to wait, then you can wait until October to go and complete the information, or, late September essentially, to have that first pay date in October be the start.
All right.
Awesome. And just two quick things that we'll mention. There are other pages in the enrollment booklet that you can reference, but it's something that we can verbally cover over. One's a beneficiary designation. So online, you'll be able to complete the beneficiary information, and the beneficiary is important. Is in the event that you pass away, the monies that you've accumulated in the account go to whom you wish. So make sure that that's up to date with either your spouse, children, relatives, family members, whatever. Make sure that's up to date, and also, paying attention to that too. So as life changes, feel free to go in there. You'll have 24/7 access to the system, and you can go in there and update that at any time. And then the last and final thing, just as a quick plug and mention, is if you have an old 401k account, old IRA account that you'd like to consolidate into the plan, after you've completed the online enrollment, you're eligible to roll those monies into the plan. So if you wanted to move money over from an old account that's being neglected, you can do so. There's a team at the provider, retirement plan consultants that can help do the heavy lifting. Reach out to the provider, get them to coordinate that check distribution to you, and then send it off with a form to them. And we're available too to talk through that scenario and help provide you details on how that works and what's needed. It's normally around a 2-week process. So just want to create a little bit of a level of expectation. If that does apply to you, it's definitely not an overnight thing. They've got to send you the money, you fill out a form, and then you send them the money, and they need to take direction and deposit it and get it invested as well.
Are there fees with rolling it over?
There's not any fees from like a penalty or taxing or anything like that. Normally the person or the company that you're leaving, like if let's just say you had an account at John Hancock from an old 401k plan, John Hancock may charge a $25 or a $50 fee for them to talk to you on the phone and send you a check or cut a check, basically. There's not a cost of receiving it, and there's not a cost of getting it invested either. So you'd really look at probably a $25 to $50 fee just from an administrative standpoint to transfer that money from the provider over to the other one. And the same goes for if you're no longer working for the company in 6 months, a year, 2 years, 20 years, whatever. The monies that you've accumulated, if you're terminated, you can transfer those monies out to another IRA, 401k plan, just how you can move them in.
Sounds good to me.
Right. We're getting to the half-hour mark. I know you guys have a busy afternoon and evening. If there's any questions that you have, don't hesitate to reach out to Mark or myself. We'll be in touch with the HR team and the owners there. If there's any questions that you guys have on payroll or getting everything plugged in, we'll have further communication coming out in subsequent quarters. So feel free to pay attention to that. And if there's anything that we can help with, don't hesitate to reach out to us.
Thanks so much.
All right, Ian, thank you.
Of course. Have a wonderful day to all of you.
You send me the WebEx information? Okay.
Yep, we'll get the video queued up and then followed up with an email with that YouTube video link here just in a few minutes.